This video was made to respond to certain comments left on videos by the channel Hispanae, comments that come about frequently for some time, in other videos, social networks, articles, etc. These comments are related to the term Indian to refer to Native Americans. Comments like, "Stop calling us that," "We are not Indians," or "Indians are the inhabitants of India," or "Those dumbass Spaniards thought they had arrived in India," etc. And I can tell the internet is full of messages and content that shares these opinions, both in news articles, as in documentaries, Wikipedia entries, etc. The idea is this, that Columbus thought he had arrived in India, which is how the term Indian was created. As you will see, this is not true. So let's uncover the reason for this mistake, this fallacy, this misinformation, this cliché, etc. First, it's worth mentioning that the current country of India was not formed or acquired its name until 1947, until 1950. Therefore, when Columbus arrived in the Americas, there was no political entity with the name of India. Let's see what the political situation in the Hindustan region was like at that time. As you can see, there were multiple entities, kingdoms, sultanates, empires, etc. Why then is it continually mentioned that on his voyage, Columbus thought he had reached India? To answer this question and understand the meaning of the term India, we must look to the Indus River, which runs almost entirely through present-day Pakistan. This river was known in ancient times in Sanskrit as Sindhu, and by the Persians as Hindu, referring to it as the border river. From the Achaemenid Persian Empire, this term passed to the Greeks as Indos. The ancient Greeks referred to the population of the Indus River Valley as Indwar, which translates to the people of the Indus River, term that would be adopted later by the Romans, and that would evolve in classical Latin till India. After this explanation, let's see what geographical area was identified as India at the time. In the first maps made in Latin, the geographical region on the other side of the Indus River would be called India, but this territory was divided into two parts, taking as reference the Ganges River. Yes, the famous river of India with crystal clear waters. Therefore, the part west of the Ganges River would be known as India intra-Gangeam, and the area located east as India extra-Gangeam. Later in the 13th century, after the travels of the Venetian Marco Polo throughout South and Southeast Asia, both areas began to be designated as the Indies. Some cartographers used the name India to designate the intra-Gangeam region, and East India to designate the extra-Gangeam region. This means previously the territories known by the name of the Indies included not only the region of Hindustan, but also the regions of Indochina and Insulindia. This means most of the regions currently called Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. In the 14th century, the term Las Indias, the Indies, became even more popular when European sailors and traders devoted themselves to the exploration of these regions for mercantile purposes. This term would be widely used until the 19th century. In 15th century Europe, the existence of the American continents was unknown, but given that many people already assumed the roundness of the earth, everything indicated that one could reach the Indies by sailing to the west, and this was the objective of Christopher Columbus, to find a new route to the Indies, since the Ottoman Empire controlled the eastern route and Portugal the route through the African coasts. The biggest unknown was how far the East Indies were by following a route through the Atlantic, since at that time the circumference of the earth was not known. That's why when Columbus arrived at the islands of the American continent, at first he believed that he had reached the East Indies. But they soon realized these new islands lacked eastern spices and did not correspond with known eastern islands. For this reason, they began to be called West Indies, to differentiate them from the first. Already on his third voyage between 1498 and 1500, after stepping on continental American soil, Columbus warned in one of his letters that these lands were a new territory, unknown until then. From that moment on, these lands would also be known as the New World. Shortly after his travels to the New World, the Florentine Amerigo Vespucci, naturalized Castilian, was the first to dare affirm that this territory was a new continent. In this way, and thanks to the work of Amerigo Vespucci and Juan de la Cosa, the cartographers Martin Wolsey Muller and Matthias Ringman would publish the Mappa Universalis Cosmographia in 1507, using for the first time the name of America in honor of Amerigo Vespucci to refer to the new continent. Despite the new name, the ambiguity of the name of the continent lasted for more than 300 years, using interchangeably the name of the Indies to refer to both America and the regions of Asia. To distinguish them, the term Indies was used, West Indies for the American territory and East Indies for the Asian territories. Therefore, from the term Indias, the terms Indian and Indiana were derived to refer to the native population of the American continent. Thus, while the name American was used to designate those born in the American continent, regardless of their ethnic origin, the name Indian or American Indian was used to refer to the Native American population. On the other hand, when the English began their colonization of North America, they also used the term West Indies. The natives of North America also began to be called Indians, which is why we see this as a common label within the Western films when referring to Native Americans. Another example is the state name of Indiana, which means Land of the Indians, and it was named by the United States as early as 1800. In 1834, the United States created a territory they would call Indian Country, which occupied the northern part of what had been Louisiana, with the goal of relocating Native Americans who had been previously deported. In fact, the term Indian Country is still used today in the United States to refer to the autonomous communities of Native Americans known as reservations by the jurisdiction of the Indian Country. And broadly speaking, these are the reasons why the widespread denomination of Indians to refer to Native Americans is still preserved today. And although using the term Indian today to refer to the Native American population can be seen as archaic, there are similar terms such as Indianism or Indian law that continue to be used.